We're excited about our first game. Excited about the first game in Carver. I'll be curious to see. We're still a work in progress, trying to figure out lineups, trying to figure out who plays with who. So it might take us a little while to figure that stuff out, but we're getting there. Practiced, had good practices this week. Our offense is starting to click a lot more. It'll be nice to not go against our defense for a while, and hopefully it'll work in games. So we're excited.
Outside of the win, of course, what are there 2 or 3 things you're specifically looking for from your team tomorrow outside of course trying to win the game?
Yeah, not really. Just trying to win the game. Yeah, I mean, just try to compete, try to give effort, try to do the things that we're supposed to do, and then obviously, you've got to score now on the scoreboard. So seeing how that happens, there's a lot of times in these situations and that there can be a sense of game slippage, in real games when it goes on your record, and so making sure that we combat some of that and kind of work through that early, and then see what happens in that second half.
How much did you learn from the 2 scrimmages, and how much does that kind of help you come up with the lineup, I guess?
Yeah, a lot. Part of it is just trying to figure out what we're going to be from an offensive perspective, because we've got very unique lineup where some of our best defenders, some of our best shooters aren't our best defenders, and vice versa. And so you got to mix and match the right lineup to be able to create space on the floor, but yet get enough stops from a physicality perspective. And then also who clicks with who, and you're bringing 13 guys together, so it's pretty tricky.
Do you have any idea what your rotation is at this point, or is there even such a thing?
I don't know if there is such a thing. I know Bennett will play. Yeah, outside of that, I don't know that we have a set even yet, to be perfectly honest. I just think we're just trying to figure that out, because we just, it's always different in practice than it is in a game, and especially one that, that there's a scoreboard and it goes on your record. So, anytime you take over a new program like this, that's kind of part of the deal is once you start to say, okay, we're going to play these guys, and then all of a sudden those guys don't work, you got to be able to adapt pretty quick. And so that'll probably be more what it is than this is just the lineup that we're going to play.
How big are scouting? They have 3 players back. You have 2. How big are scouting reports in a game like this?
They'll be big. Do they have 3? Oh, they had a couple of kids that walked on.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, scouting reports are always big. I think that they probably know what we've ran in the past, and we know what they have. And usually teams that are decent programs, they're going to change some things, but it's not going to be shocking. And so it'll just be more how quickly can you catch up with the personnel as to what they're doing, what are they doing to you defensively, and then being able to punish some of those things very quickly.
What are your emotions, just obviously being from the state, growing up watching Iowa? What are your emotions kind of going into your first game as head coach at Carver, as I was coach?
Yeah, probably very similar to a game. Game days are always miserable until the game starts. So you'll probably experience the game day misery, as I would call it. And then once the game starts, then you're ready to rock and roll, and then it's fun. And so you probably, just like any other game, you probably overthink 25 different scenarios and try to adjust things all the way up till game time. And then, once the game, it still ultimately comes down to who's going to give effort, who's going to fight harder, those kind of things. So no different than any other game for me.
Do you have a game day routine? I mean, do you have a set routine every day?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm a pretty rigid guy, so yeah, for sure.
Were there any big noticeable improvements from the first to second scrimmage, or anything you kind of took away from it?
Our effort defensively, especially in the first half of that second one against a really good team, was much better. I still think we're a ways away offensively, just trying to catch up and try to find the right rhythm, the right timing for everything, who's going to play with who's good with who. That's been the hardest thing to adjust to. And we faced 2 of the coverages that we'll probably face pretty consistently, which is great. So we have some film on that. We've been working on that for the last few days. But just our energy's gotten better. I've learned more about what we need to do from an offensive perspective, and then defensively, I thought we were pretty good in both games for the first, 25, 26 minutes, somewhere around those rates.
It's a pretty broad question, but between the day you were hired and tomorrow night, what have been the most important things that you've had to do here?
Well, find players. You know, you hire your staff, you find players. Those are probably the most important two. And then after that, trying to get some excitement generated for the program. You know, and obviously get your team better, develop relationships with your players, etc. That's just from the basketball perspective. From the other side is get your family moved and actually spend some time with your family, which is always tricky. But you know, I'd say finding players. Everything always goes back to the people and the personnel, and you know, I think that we've got the right group, and you know, hopefully they can do some things.
What do you think of, I've been seeing reports of players that have been in the G League possibly coming back to college to play? What are your thoughts on that?
The G League stuff, yeah. I mean, I don't know that. I think the tricky part is like, what are the rules?
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, it's interesting though how so many people are upset with the G League thing, but you know, 95% of the college basketball took European pros, so it's like, you know, okay, what's the difference? To be perfectly honest, I don't see any difference between the two. Maybe I'm just completely off my rocker, but you played professionally in the G League or you played professionally overseas, it's the same thing. So they did this all the way too, but then all of a sudden the G League and everybody's upset. It's like, well, what do you think everybody in the country has been doing for the last however many, you know, months? So I don't know. I just think at some point they just got to have a set of rules, and we probably got to stick by them.
Is Tavion going to be available?
Yeah, he'll be.
Is that disciplinary wise behind him?
Yeah, I mean, it was internal stuff that we disciplined him with and continue to, so there's some things there, but it's generally a pretty hefty deal, so he's been well, you know, well, I guess, I don't know if it's punished per se. You know, sometimes I think the greatest punishment is making sure that you, you know, learn from your mistakes, one, and then two, okay, how do we offer you an opportunity to now give back and do some things like that for your initial stuff, and then, you know, eventually then there's just, you know, it's heavy consequences after that. You know, you get one strike, but you start to get to 2 and 3, then you got problems.
Was this coaching in a, you know, the highest level of college basketball something that you always wanted?
No, I always wanted to play at the highest level of college basketball and never could. And then once I got into coaching, I didn't really think about it. I just kind of coached the team that I had, and I always thought, you know, one of my assistants always gives me heck. He's like, you always think that your grass is greener. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, wherever you're at, you just think it's better than everywhere else. And so I think it's actually a compliment. But I've always seen it from that lens of looking internal and figuring out what you have and making that place as great as you could possibly make it, and not really having that outside eye. Now, naturally, it occurs, you know, just when you have a level of success, but I don't think that people that chase some of those things necessarily accomplish what they want to accomplish. Because they're chasing things that they really don't have control over. I don't have control over the fact that University of Iowa opened this year, and we just happen to have a good season at Drake, and I just happened to take the Drake job that day. Like, I don't have any control over that. It's just dumb luck, you know, and you know, I'm fortunate enough to be in that position, though.
So it's fair to assume when you were down in Missouri coaching, you weren't thinking about, man, is that big break ever going to come? It was just make the best of what you have at the moment?
No, because I turned down a lot of breaks.
Okay.
If you will, if you call it a break. You know, I mean, I turned down, I don't know how many jobs, a lot of jobs, to go to Division I. I mean, since 2017, there's probably be 2, 3, 4 a year that you're just like, no, not interested. And then a couple that you'd go down the path with that you thought that might be a good opportunity to kind of spread your wings even more, and then you'd state no. So, Yeah, it was never that. I would have made the jump a long time ago if it was for that.
What's kind of the early scout on Robert Morris? Like, I know obviously they have so many different guys, but what are some of the things that they kind of do well, or system-wise?
Yeah, every team that they've ever had has been a really good rebounding team, particularly offensive rebounding. They probably play middle of the pack as far as speed goes, but they'll get out enough in transition, and their guards, all their guards have the ultimate green light to be able to do what they need to do. Then defensively, they've shown mostly man. My guess is they'll have some type of zone in, and so we'll have to be ready for that as well. Yeah, they're obviously well coached. Made the NCAA tournament. They're used to winning, and we need to make sure that we're ready to go.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks,
Thanks,
man.
man.